Hello. How is everybody doing? How's things? How's life? How's the universe? How has your week been? Let me just close that before it goes too loud. Hello. How is everybody doing? Hello, John. How you doing? How's things? Apologies I missed last week. I was at the SMMT test day for this thing. You should have seen the video already. It came out yesterday. But I got back. The event starts really early. I got back in at like 7 o'clock, and then I think I had a bit of food and then collapsed and didn't wake up until about 10 a.m. No, 10 p.m. and then almost immediately went back to bed, and so yeah, it wasn't possible, I'm afraid. But it was a great day. Made a video about it. So yeah. Need to type this type thing quick, else I forgot. Remember me whinging about getting a Gigabyte M34WQ. There is a new interesting contender that I think you could check out, cheaper as well. Interesting. Who's it from? What model? Hello, Chris. How you doing? It's the LC Power LC-UWQHD-144. Yeah. Catchy. I can't say that I've heard of LC Power as a monitor brand. LC Power... well, lcpower.co.uk is an electrician. lcpower.com, yeah, I don't recognize that. But I mean, I don't know, we'll see. Is it curved? Oh, don't tell me it's curved. Which one was it? LC... M40, M49, 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 M34. Was it M49? No, M40. Good, it's not curved. It's IPS. HDR 600. I don't know what, I literally, as I hopefully have made it clear, know nothing about this. However, my guess is that this is probably a panel that you will have seen before. Also, apparently it's only available at Computer Universe and Mind Factory. And Mind Factory wanted to solve a CAPTCHA before going to their site. I just want to check out the price. 439 euros, right, so it's probably either the same panel or a very similar panel to the M34, although is the M34 curved? Anyway, it's probably not too bad, although it's probably a little slow on, on the response times. They claim 4 milliseconds, which probably means 20. They also claim 400 nits brightness, but HDR 600, I assume 600 nits in... It's probably not too bad. But hello to Simon, hello to Michael, and hello to Ish, hello to Zig. How you guys doing? Simon, how much was the MG4? So I think it starts at 27,000, which is about the same as a VW ID4, ID3. Which is probably what it's comparable to, although I would argue that it's a bit nicer than an ID3. So yeah. I don't know what it would be in Danada. That was terrible. But yeah. You mentioned the MG ZS EV, the SUV one, last week, or the week before. That's one of their older models, so if you don't have the MG5 yet, that is the estate, and that one has been out for a little while. The MG4 is the newest one, So if you've only just got the ZS, then you probably are going to get the 5 next, and then the 4. So it's probably going to be a year or two still. But yeah. Hello, Michael from Texas. How you doing? Hello, Essentialist, and hello, Joe. How you guys doing? How's things? If only they'd name it 1, 2, 3. Well, I think the idea is that the 5 is the estate, the 4 is the more compact. I assume a 3 is like a more city car, like an even smaller one. I don't know if they're planning on doing that, but yeah. And then I assume, well, the ZS was the first one, but that was because the ZS is a standard internal combustion engine car that they fitted battery pack and motors to. Whereas the MG5 and 4 are EV only options. What's one going to be then? An electric bike? I mean, it could be. I think MG are owned by, who is it? They were bought by a Chinese brand. I don't remember. MG parent company. SAIC Motor. SAIC. China's largest car maker, apparently. They're as old as I am. Been playing Cyberpunk, such an amazing game. It's pretty good. I turned the light down, and now it's way too dark. Alex Bear. They should do an MG 2 or 3 sports car like the MGB. I mean, that would be pretty cool. I would like to see that. I forgot to ask how was your week. It's alright. Not too bad. Busy. I've been what did I do? What was the first video I did this week? I'll check the schedule. Oh yes, I have an RX 7600, and I was comparing it to some of the older cards like the 1060, the 1660 Ti, and the RX 580 to see how it compares from those older cards, which make up a considerable amount of the Steam user base, to that new card at what is a relatively reasonable price tag and is in stock. So it might be worth upgrading for some people, and it looks like it. That's tomorrow. And the Razer Death Adder V3 on Monday. As well as editing the SMMT day from last week, and chasing out car manufacturers because they promised me things and now they're not answering my calls or emails. Yeah. I have decent amount of confidence in the Hyundai, giving me an Ioniq 5 in the not too distant future, and then I think the Ioniq 6 is available July, August, and then the MG4 that was also August time, so hopefully I can get some of those in. Added mods to the game to make it look better. Instantly killed 30 FPS. I mean, Cyberpunk already has a lot of like visual options. So yeah. And have you been put an order for the BYD yet? No, I haven't ordered a Build Your Dreams Atto 3. Yeah, it was quite. It was a weirdly nice place to be. in the Atto 3. They had the door bins had tuned guitar strings as they're like, as elastic, so your stuff doesn't fall out. But you can actually like, it's 3 tuned strings, so you can play a little tune. But yeah, there was a lot of tech in it. And a lot of tech I'm not entirely sure you need, like a rotating screen. Like the central infotainment screen turns from portrait to landscape and back again at the touch of a button. And it is just a big Android tablet. Yeah, burn your dreams. We'll see. I mean, I think there is a decent amount of safety and testing that has to go on to be able to be sold on, in the UK, for example. So we'll see. I found some new tires for the Kia Stinger, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. Got quoted $560 a tire at the dealer. Found them for $476 from the tire shop. Nice. What's kind of funny is that dealers often also shortchange you on tires. It's probably a lot less of a problem when you're going to the dealer for a service, like your tires have worn down and you need to get some new ones. But one of the things that dealers occasionally do is, well, they might say that whatever car you have has Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, or Pirelli P0s or whatever. What you might find is that especially the ones that come in the car brand new aren't quite as thick. They aren't made in the same factory in Italy for the Pirellis. They're not. They do share the same tread pattern, but they're a lot less. There's a lot less rubber on that tire, and the compound is a bit different. So yeah, you can kind of get shortchanged on those a little bit. I was surprised with the snappiness of the screen, since a lot of EVs are terrible in that regard. Indeed, I think the thing with that is that I'm pretty sure it is just an Android tablet, and while it is a pretty big screen and it kind of looked like it was at least 1440p to me, it's also like, my phone is 1440p and this is perfectly snappy and fine, so I assume that it's probably just Android, some either Snapdragon or a MediaTek or maybe even an Exynos, I don't know. But I assume it's some, Android tablet chip with 8 gigs of RAM or something, and, whatever. That would be my assumption, anyway. Rock chip, yeah, one of those. Whatever's cheapest. Kind of excited here. My new MiV-GP Pro Black exhaust is only 220 kilometers away at the moment. Hopefully it'll arrive soon, TM. Enjoy. Did you say you were getting a tune for your new exhaust? Because that's normally quite important. Or is it just the back box? Oh, actually, interesting news. I sold my bike. I got rid of my SV650S. Main reason being, I don't ride it. Other reason being, it doesn't quite fit. It was kind of the wrong seating position. It was a little too close. Especially the S, I think the handlebars are dropped a bit. So instead of being quite an upright position where I can use my core muscles to keep me just bow upright and you can counter steer nice and easily, the S was a little more tucked, which did give it a bit of a sporty feel and look, I suppose. But the problem was that it wasn't far enough down that you can like rest on the tank or ride that way, but it wasn't far enough up that I could sit comfortably on it. And so what ended up happening was I was just resting, holding onto the bars, like leaning on the bars, which is really bad for control. So yeah, it wasn't really the right bike, and I don't ride it. Not really in the mental or physical states to ride a motorbike at the moment. I do have an e-bike, so like an e-mountain bike, so I'm not bereft of motorized two-wheel transport. Not quite as fast, but a bit more useful for me, and a bit better exercise too. Yeah, it was basically just burning a hole in my pocket. I wasn't using it, and it cost me, however much in insurance and tax and MOCs and repairs and maintenance every year. And like, I think I've bought 2 new batteries for it so far because I keep letting them die because I had a stupid alarm system that would kill the battery in like a month. So yeah, I wasn't worth the keeping it, really. I think at some point in shoot me, I make it. I'll probably get either an adventure bike or even just a more sort of street naked bike. Is probably a better shout. I'd like an electric motocross bike, but I also need a place to ride it, and I currently don't have any of those. So yeah, when I'm older and actually own a house, maybe that'd be nice. I can dream. Hello, Harry, and hello, Stuart. How you guys doing? I hope you're enjoying having the Ioniq 5 as much as me. It's been 100% revelation, reason to go EV. So I don't have the Ioniq 5 yet. I went to the SMMT test day last week and I drove the Ioniq 6. I'm hoping to get an Ioniq 5 in. Well, I asked them for it for next week to try and give them a bit of a deadline to hit, but yeah, they haven't responded to my emails or calls this week, so it's probably not happening this week, and it'll be hopefully, or it's not happening next week. Hopefully it'll be maybe the week after, but we'll see. But yes, the Ioniq 5 was probably the first car that wasn't a Tesla that actually looked like a legitimate, like you could buy that and it could be your pretty much sole car and it would be fine as long as you could charge it at home. Or I suppose at work. So yeah, I'll see what it's like when I get it. I hope you're having a nice time in your comfy chair. My fat ass is currently on an exercise bike doing 300 miles in the 30-day challenge I set myself. Sweat my tatas off. Well, I mean, best of luck with your exercise. You're a better man than me. I do want to go mountain biking this weekend, so I might do that. I should probably do that for the sake of my my own health. But yeah, nice. Enjoy. I can't say that I'm that comfy. I have a lot of problems. Nah, no need to tune it. You could, but nah, because it's not open pipe. Okay, fair. Fair play. Enjoy the different sound then. Saw a learner bike driver earlier resting their legs up on not quite the handlebars, but somewhere high up facing straight forward at 40 miles an hour. So here's the thing. That's bad, obviously. If you're in an accident or whatever, your legs can exit out your arsehole. However, it is quite common when you're on a bike, especially if you're on a bike that is not the most comfortable, to need to stretch your legs after any amount of, motorway driving or riding, I suppose. And so it's not uncommon to want to stretch your legs. It's normally just a but yeah, it's probably not the best idea, especially just like resting them, on crash bars or whatever, or sliders. My throat's on fire. Mostly because I have asthma and I have to take inhalers, and that irritates my throat. The Ionic 5 looks very cyberpunk, therefore I love it. Nice. I do quite like it. It definitely grew on me. Ish. What's funny is that, so apparently down south it's been like super hot. Up northy more, it's been a quite nice because it's cooled back down again. It was like 25 or 26 like outdoor temperature for a week or two. In fact, I've actually moved the air conditioning unit. You can't quite see it, but it's just off camera, stage right. But yeah, I've actually had to close my window and take the air conditioning hose out because it's been cold enough to actually need to do that. I'm back wearing trousers instead of shorts, so I'm happy again. It's not freezing, but it's not. I'm not dying in the heat. Also, there's a moment of oversharing. With the whole asthma thing. So it turns out that when it gets hotter and the air gets less dense, I have trouble breathing, or like extracting oxygen. And what that means is my blood oxygen content is quite regularly below 95. Like it's only 93, 94, 95, whatever. But even with the daily asthma inhaler, which is the preventer, the steroids to open up your lungs. My blood oxygen level is resting is the highest it gets is about 97, and then it just goes down from there. 95 is kind of the cutoff where that anything below that's bad. Oops. But yeah. What exact bike did you say you sold? A Suzuki SV650S, Sierra Victor 650 Sierra. Which is mostly naked, but it's technically called half faired. It's just got a little like stripe of fairings on the front. It's not a full fairinged bike, but it's a little sportier. You're tucked a little bit more rather than the standard SV650 non-S, what they renamed to Gladius, the Gladius in 2012 to 2016, and that's a more proper naked bike where you're more upright, like a MT-07 or MT-09 or whatever. So yeah. What kind of range is normal resting / active? Well, in theory, like a perfectly healthy person with no respiratory problems generally sits at a like 98 or higher. 95 is the kind of lower limit for normal. Anything below 95 is normally considered bad, and I think it's something like 80% and you're in a coma. Because your blood's not capturing the oxygen. Could either be because you're anemic, which is low iron, or have sickle cell anemia, which is different. What's it? I'm trying to revive fucking GCSE science here. Hemoglobin? That thing? Or am I making that up? Sounds right. The red blood cells and the hemoglobin, and that's what captures the oxygen, takes it around. I'm not qualified to talk about this. Alex, hello. Thank you for the tech question. God. I got an Asus RG laptop. If I want to go back to Windows 10, will it work with my normal Windows 10 install, or do I need it from Asus? So what I would personally do, so first of all, a laptop is just a laptop. A laptop is just a computer. It's fine. The only thing that you might need to be aware of is that the various devices, whether that be the graphics drivers, you know, the like Intel integrated or AMD integrated, whatever, or whatever. But yeah. You'll probably want to go and download all of those drivers first, have them on either the same USB stick or, you know, another one, so that when you do boot into Windows 10, you know, fresh installed, there is you already have all of the drivers. You know, things like if Wi-Fi doesn't work, you've already got the Wi-Fi driver, you know, on a USB stick to install from. You know, if the keyboard isn't working right, or if the trackpad isn't working right, as long as your USB ports work, you can make do and, you know, get everything installed. But the actual Windows installer itself shouldn't be any different. You shouldn't need an image from ASUS to be able to install on a laptop. It is still just a computer. You might just need to be a bit more careful about getting all the drivers and stuff first. Joe, I think there's this hack for it, right? Called pedaling. Is there anything tech related happening? Maybe somewhere off the coast of China? I might be wrong. Thanks for that segue. 2 hours from now. Yes, Computex is on. So, rather obviously, I'm not there. But yeah, seen a couple of interesting things. Nvidia's press conference was awful. Watch the GamerSex's video. I think that one sums it all up the best. Had a very developers kind of vibe, but also just a train wreck. I think like everything that Nvidia said was about AI, which is also why their stock price has meteored upwards recently. And they're now a $1 trillion company. I can't wait for that to come crashing down. Especially if you look at the graph, because it just goes, what? And that's never failed. There's that. But yeah, so everything that they talked about basically was AI based, whether that's their new Hopper GPUs, or their new ARM-based 72-core CPUs, or the Hopper Grace or Grace Hopper compute board thing. So all of that, I mean, the hardware side is interesting. I think that's what was actually interesting. Everything else that they talked about, like the whole, I don't know if anyone uses Reddit, but there was a really breathy post on like ChatGPT and like, damn, that's interesting or something, that was proper how do I say this on stream? Fanboying breathlessly about how, you know, Nvidia is revolutionizing the gaming industry with AI generated prompts for NPCs. And if you actually watch the the video, it's like the worst thing you've ever seen in a game. It's like the weirdest, worst interaction you could hope for, and if that was in a game, you would go, oh, that was awful. So yeah, a lot of that stuff feels like it needs a lot of polish. Maybe another couple years in the incubator. Another 5 more years in the oven. So yeah. And also, like, it's called hiring a script writer and a voice actor. Like, is it really that hard? Is it really, going to save you that much money that you'd rather not hire people to do the thing that they're good at? Anyway. There's a couple other things. Reverse ported motherboards seem to be on the rise. Oh, actually, here's something that's not a Computex, but you should know about. Gigabyte in particular has been, what's the word? Called out, exposed. So there's a feature in a lot of motherboards that is absolutely awful, and basically, it's a thing where in the BIOS itself, Gigabyte have hard-coded 3 different web requests, so that whenever you boot into your operating system, especially for the first time, even on a fresh install, you will get a little pop-up box that says there is do you want to download our whatever I can't even remember what Gigabyte's control center software is. I know Asus's Armory Crate, which does the exact same thing, by the way. And so that web request, that lookup, or those 3 lookups, are hard-coded into the BIOS. Now, you can disable them in the BIOS, so if you go into the BIOS and there's a setting called, like, App Center or something, if you disable that will not run that web request. But the thing is that it's not a secure web request. It's not going, it's not doing any cryptographic, like SSL certification. It is just doing the request to 3 different URLs, and then if it gets a response from that, it downloads that package. So yeah. That's great. And so the thing is that if you can spoof that URL, like if you can locally host that URL somewhere so that someone's PC goes to that, or even you can just man in the middle it. You can see the request going out, and then if you can interrupt that traffic, you can watch it come back, and before it comes back, you can stop their executable file from going and send in an infected one. And there is nothing that you can do about that because it's hard-coded into the BIOS. So, ironically, Gigabyte are aware and they're planning on fixing it, whatever. Ironically, you're going to need to update the BIOS to fix the problem. Which is kind of part of the whole problem of potentially insecure things making things even worse. But anyway, so yeah, that's the just on that one. And so yeah, if you have a Gigabyte board or an Asus board, or I think even an MSI board, if you have the option to enter the BIOS and disable that setting, I highly recommend you do so. I have no code for it. Does it just activate because it's an Asus? So if you're asking about the come on, brain. I'm almost there. Windows serial key. I don't know that they're backwards compatible. I know that if you have Windows 10 and you upgrade to Windows 11, your serial will transfer over, but I don't know, especially with a fresh install, if that license will transfer. I don't think it will. I think that's part of the install that they do. So yeah. The Windows serial should be baked into the motherboard. Possibly. Again, I don't know if it's backwards compatible though. Like, it'll be an OEM key, that's for sure. I know that in the Windows 7 days, the OEM key was just part of the installer, because I had a Windows OEM installer. I probably still do, actually. I think you can probably still install 7 and upgrade to 10. Oh, right, it came with 10 but upgraded to 11. Right, okay, got you. In that case, yes, it should probably be fine, especially if it is locked to the motherboard. Avishkar, how to make my own operating system? Don't. Is the short answer. The closest thing to making your own operating system is normally making a Linux distro. But if you're asking that question here, there's a lot of learning you'll need to do first before you even get close to that. Thanks, Essentialist. There might be a link in the description, I can't remember. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Crazy Booyah. I've had asthma all my life. When there was no inhalers when I was young in the 70s. I know what you're talking about. Mega bad when foggy. Yeah. Also, can you use 2 PSUs to make the recommended power for your GPU motherboard? Yes, you can. So the one thing with using multiple power supplies is you normally need a bit of an adapter because they need to turn on at the same time. All you need to do is short the back when they were colored, this would make sense, but the green lead in the 24-pin connector to a ground. And then that is what triggers the power supply to turn on. But you can just buy often relatively cheap adapters that let you plug in 2 power supplies, and then they'll like share grounds between them, which is quite helpful and useful. And they'll also let you trigger them both from the motherboard without any hacky way to do it. And then you probably just use 1 power supply for your main system. Probably if you're doing different wattages, then the lower wattage one. So let's say you have a 750 and a 500 watt power supply, just for example. I would probably put the 500 watt one on your motherboard, you know, powering the CPU and all your peripherals, and then just use the 750 or whatever to power the GPU. Anything from Computex caught your eye? Well, the Hopper GPU does look pretty cool, and it'd be nice to see that come to market a bit more. What I really want to see is GPUs, like more AI-focused GPUs for consumers. I know it's probably a bit of a mad wish, but it'd be really nice if we could get, you know, 24 gig or higher in not a 4090, whether that's from AMD or Nvidia, don't mind. I'd prefer Nvidia just because of CUDA support, and that's what a lot of things like TensorFlow are built on. There is some AMD support, but I think a lot of it's through OpenCL, which sucks ass. So yeah, but I've actually been running the 2080 Ti currently isn't in there, but when the 2080 Ti is in there, I've been running the Vicuna chat model, which is based on Llama, and then was Alpaca from MIT, which was then trimmed or pruned to be Llama and from Facebook, and then was trimmed further to be the Vicuna model. And anyway, even with 12 gig of VRAM, that's working pretty well. Basically, it's self-hosted ChatGPT, and at some point I'll do a video on it, because it's actually really easy to set up and run, as long as you have 12 to 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which I know is kind of posh boy stuff, but still. It is relatively easy to get set up, run, and I kind of want to compare it to ChatGPT. in more sort of real world use cases. There are the sort of academic paper comparisons, but I want to see what a more real world use for the two are. I think I've asked AMD for their new workstation card, actually. They said I could have one, I think it's June, maybe? W7900. 48 gig of VRAM. But yeah, hopefully. Intel 14th gen will go into Z790 motherboard, so that's 3 generations on one Intel socket, which I think is first. I think it is as well, which is pretty sweet to see, to be honest. I would be very, very surprised if 15th gen is on the same socket, but yeah, I'm surprised. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those soon. I assume it's going to be September or something. How long until AMD abandons AM5? Well, AMD has a track history of being pretty good with keeping on. The only problem I have with AM5, and I think that AMD have themselves, is that they didn't want to break cooler compatibility with AM4, which is a problem because it now means that their IHSs are ridiculously thick. Like, an Intel IHS is, what, 1 or 2 millimeters thick? An AMD IHS is like 6 to 8, which is ridiculous, and is part of the problem of why the chips overheat so much. The actual chips themselves are remarkably efficient, and you know, when you can cool them well, they're fantastic. But the fact that the IHS is so thick is the problem, and that's only because they had to maintain the same cooler height, or well, they decided to maintain the same cooler height, which is an odd choice, I would say. Camera looks very slanted this week. I don't think it is. It is quite tipped forward, and it's like a slight angle, so maybe, but maybe it is. I don't know. I'll poke it next week. AM5 Plus would be nice. I don't care about AM4 compatibility, just get an adapter kit. That's what I like. Yeah, exactly. I'm not entirely sure that they'll go for that though. Because I think somewhat, no matter what they do, like they've put themselves into a bit of a corner, and no matter which of the paths they take, gonna upset some people. Either they change socket, or at very least change the mounting, but then they're gonna need to change the socket in some way to make sure that you don't use the wrong cooler, which then alienates a lot of people who've just bought what are very expensive AM5 boards, and so then they're not going to be able to use that same board for new chips, or they keep going with AM5, which is probably what they're going to keep doing, and keep offering what you might call subpar performance from their chips because of the too thick IHS, at the cost of, or at the benefit of not alienating the users who've bought AM5 boards and who then won't want to have paperweights by the time they're, the next gen comes out. You can delid it. Roman sells a tool, Der Bauer through Thermal Grizzly. And actually one of the things that Linus showed off at Computect is their Noctua have a cooler mounting kit, which not only moves the cooler down, which we've seen people like Arctic with the freezer line do, but also if you do delid it, it also spaces them down so that you can use direct die cooling, which is upwards of, well, up to like 20 degrees cooler, which is insane. Which also then means you can push more power through them and get more performance out of them. The 5600X is such a nice chip. It's not bad now. I have a 5900X in this thing. I took my misbehaving server into work and now I can hardly believe what electrical engineers do. Scary smart people, even when over 60. Fair. Would you daily a production machine that's delided? I am someone who, especially because of how I've built my PC, which is into my desk with a custom chassis that's not very easy to access. We don't talk about these things. Probably not, because it is my work machine, and so I care less about the ultimate performance and more about the reliability while still getting performance. So things like delidding my chip would be at odds with that sort of reliability philosophy, and also because it's difficult to get to, I wouldn't want to, and so it's more of a pain. If it was purely for as a gaming system, like if I was not a YouTuber, and it was my own money and it was for gaming, and so it wasn't something that I actively require, like this PC is what pays my bills essentially, because this is what I do all the work on. It's what I'm streaming on right now. It's what I upload and edit all the videos on, etc., etc. So if this stops working, this is a very big problem for me. But if I wasn't a YouTuber, if it was my own money, and if it was my gaming system that I don't necessarily have to have working, I would certainly consider it, because especially for the Ryzen 7000 chips, it makes such a big difference. You get either such lower temperatures, or you get much better performance. And so both of those things, combined with arguably the relatively low cost of all of those changes, like I don't think the delidding tool is all that expensive. I don't think that the contact frame is all that much, all that expensive. And so all of those things seem like fantastic performance upgrades, essentially. So, yeah. Is there a way of creating different processor / chip sizes? Why do both rival companies make LGA and PGA chip / sockets? So actually nowadays, you're spending your points, John. Let me answer that question properly. So AMD now uses LGA chips as well, land grid array, with AM5. They moved from pin grid array to land grid array with AM5. So Ryzen 7000 is LGA. You certainly, people like Intel and AMD can make different chip sizes. Sorry, someone's stuck on teeth. The the reason why they do the outer chip, like the PCB part of the chip that has the actual sort of socket, the pins, that sort of thing. The reason that they change the size of those is for a variety of factors, including what pins, like how many pins they need to connect. So things like, you know, with your RAM, you need at least 64 pins times 2, so 128 pins to the CPU just for dual channel RAM. So there's 128 pins you need. You know, you need a lot of pins for power and grounds. And so there's probably another few hundred of those. Oh yeah, it's not 288 for DDR4. Thank you very much. Or DDR5 if I remember rightly. Anyway, you know, so there's a few hundred in power pins alone. You need PCIe, you need connections to the chipset, which nowadays is just PCIe, but you know, more different PCIe. And then a lot of stuff gets connected to the CPU. So like the APUs have display outputs connected directly, often a couple of them. So you need a bunch of pins for that. And then the other thing is the power density. So if you're if you're that chip or that package is expected to be able to draw 200 or 300 watts, like Intel's i9s are, you need to have enough surface area, enough copper, and enough contact pads for power and ground alone to be able to handle that power coming in. So from a PCB and socket size perspective, that's why they change the sizes. That's why they do that. From a silicon size, you normally see different silicon sizes more frequently in graphics cards, because they're a bit more sort of sensitive to not necessarily the size of silicon, but the costs and dynamics there. And the thing is that the larger the piece of silicon, the more expensive it's going to be, both because there's just more silicon, it's going to be, there's going to be more transistors on there, whatever, but also because the yield rate for that wafer is going to be lower. So basically your silicon wafers, and they get manufactured, are big 12-inch discs, and those can be split up, depending on what chip you're putting on it. You can split them up into 10 big chips, or you could split them up into 1,000 tiny little ones. And because there is always going to be defects on those chips, if you've only made 10 of them on one wafer, and each one of those 10 has mission critical failures, then you've just wasted that wafer. But if you have 1,000 tiny chips and only 20 of them have defects in them, well, you can just bin 20 of those chips, and now you've got 980 perfectly good ones to use, whatever else. Which is why AMD's chiplet design was so beneficial for them, is because they could manufacture the chiplets, which were tiny. And instead of having one monolithic chip where if there's an error in any one of those parts, they have to bin the whole thing, they can now just manufacture the chiplets on their own, and then manufacture the IO die on a different process, an older process node, so it's cheaper. And then all of that means that it's more cost effective, and they can sell the chips for a lower price, etc., etc. So they can change the size of both of them, but there are a variety of factors which determine why they pick the sizes that they do. Hope that's helpful. The plastic molding around a lot of video out cables is pretty ridiculous. HDMI, DVI, and DisplayPort are all chunkers. Yes, very true. Which was replying to, I've just had to order some right angle DisplayPort cables because the Antec Striker I bought from you is so low from the feet that they're doing nothing, only resting on my GPU cable. This case is designed so poorly. Yeah. Yeah, sounds about right. And Joe, you're done. Only hyperventing a little bit. Are you still planning on upgrading your desk build? It's been relatively stable. I would like a graphics card with more VRAM because editing mostly. But yeah, probably not. I mean, it's fine. You know, if parts that I don't need to use for testing stuff land in my lap, I might consider it. But for the time being, no, probably not. DisplayPort to HDMI adapters need to be active to get higher resolution in most cases. True. Even though the digital to digital signals, they're not quite perfect. Do heat spreaders on RAM actually matter? Generally, no. Although on DDR5, arguably maybe, because the power management is on board. So you might need to cool the what's it called? Voltage regulator. That's the word. But generally, no, RAM packages don't get that hot these days. They tend to run at lower and lower voltages. I think the new DDR5, like 6400, runs at 1.1 volts. So the lower the voltage, the less heat normally, as a general rule. So generally, no, it's more for aesthetic, which is why we've also seen a lot more low-profile RAM in recent years. There used to be massive things. Can't see. I used to have some old Vengeance DDR3 that was massive. But yeah, nowadays we have relatively basic heat spreaders for RAM. Heroes hoping for another Carpentry series desk PC Mark II. Oh dear. I've run out of desks to put PCs in. is the real answer, or I probably would, knowing me. No, sadly not. I'm too busy building these tools. This is the latency tool, as you can tell by the writing on the back. I've been working on the software for this week. It's because of all of the different combinations that you can do with this, it ends up being quite complicated. Different test sources, different test triggers, different test sensors, you know, different repeats and pre-testing and stuff. So I've redesigned the UI for it, so it now actually does work. It's all somewhat modular, and in theory I could add multiple custom presets if I want to in future. So yeah. Fair enough. One of my mates said that since RAM doesn't have heat spreaders, it might die quickly. Generally, no. I mean, you just feel your RAM, see how hot it is, but yeah, generally these days, no. Like DDR2, well, 1, 2, and 3 days, sure, but DDR4, DDR5, it's a lot more efficient. It's a lot less heat output. So yeah, I would say no to that one. But yeah, the real answer is if they don't have heat spreaders, they can't have RGB, so. I've run out of room to put desks on to put PCs on. I think 9 is enough. I mean, I've got 3 and that's already too much, so yes, you're right. Just feel your RAM, man. Look at server RAM to see if it needs heat spreaders. DDR2 FB DIMMs are thick. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, server RAM, especially these days, You won't find heat spreaders on there. You playing Tears of the Kingdom? I am not. I don't think I've ever actually played a Zelda game. I wasn't that kid. I played Pokemon a lot, but I didn't have any other Nintendo consoles besides a Game Boy. Yeah. No, I'm afraid. I've heard Breath of the Wild is really good. So I think I have it on my Steam Deck. So at some point I might get around to it. And if I enjoy Breath of the Wild, it sounds like I'll be enjoying Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm sure that I would subsequently give that a go. Yeah. I'm a bit resistant to change and to trying new things, or things that aren't my normal wheelhouse. I should really be better at that, so that might be a good example to try. Wait, Zelda is the game with the long green guy, Link. Yes, Zelda's the princess, Link is the protagonist? The guy you play as. But yeah, it's Legend of Zelda. There's like Ocarina of Time and other ones that I've already forgotten. Just play Tears. Quality of life optimization is better. Sorry, I brought up. It's all good. I'll have a look then. And you can always yar-har the Zelda games. Oh, I love it, I know what you mean, and I already have. Although Nintendo DMCA'd the Dolphin emulator from Steam, which is such a scumbag move. Yeah. Anyway, I think since my throat is quite literally dying and I'm about to fall asleep, as you can probably see, I'm gonna call it there for the night. Thank you very much for tuning in as always. There's videos tomorrow, Monday, and stream next week. I hope you have a very good week and stay safe, have fun. You know, the links that can help me survive in the description. Yeah. I'll catch you guys next week. Toodaloo.